Hello, my name is Daire Uanachain, and today I'm going to talk to you about the role of generative AI in creativity and innovation in education. Why is it important to redesign education to include more room and more space for creativity and innovation? Well, basically because the majority of our school systems were designed for the factory floor, for preparing people to work in an industrial revolution in a society based on following rules and performance based on specific tasks, which is completely insufficient for the post-technological revolution society in which we're living today, particularly since the arrival of generative AI and the massive shift that we're seeing in the jobs market as a result. What is the role that AI can play in this change? Well, that's partially what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get started, a little something about me. I am an educator and I have over 20 years of experience in the field of education. I consider myself a bit of a disruptor. I am currently working in Istituto Marymount in Rome, where I am both a teacher practitioner and an AI strategist. So I am infusing my lessons with AI and my teaching practice with AI, but also I designed the school's policy and strategy for AI. I'm also a research collaborator with Université Côte d'Azur, where I won Best Poster Award at an AI in Education workshop this summer gone. I'm also a two-time runner-up for product design with IL, the interactive AI learning ecosystem product that I designed. And most recently, my work on responsible AI integration into education was recognised at the Irish AI Awards in Dublin. My academic publications focus on implementing generative AI to enhance student agency and motivation, as well as creativity and problem-solving skills, and redesigning learning and assessment in the light of generative AI. And I have a chapter coming out early next year on that topic as well. We have a lot to get through today. First, we will be starting with the current challenges facing both education and their consequences on society. Then we will discuss how AI can help, both from the point of view of AI-powered data analysis and the use of generative AI tools in and for learning. Finally, we will explore the Crea Tech and Rev frameworks which I developed as part of a push for change in the technology-enhanced learning environment in order to help develop techno-creative citizens for the future. So, what are the current challenges facing the education systems? Overcrowded classrooms mean teachers often spend more time on crowd control than they do on actually teaching. So the teaching and the learning becomes second place. This means they often rely on rote learning and standardized testing, as doing anything beyond and above that can be too stressful and won't necessarily be successful. So projects which disrupt are often avoided. This approach often penalises neurodiverse students in particular, not to mention the multiple choice questions and other instances of mismatch between learning content and objectives and assessment can result in a significant skills gap, resulting in student body who are unprepared for the demands of the job market. Another growing problem facing schools is the widespread student apathy to learning, reported by many K-12 realities, particularly in more economically developed countries and in more affluent societies, with some studies associating this apathy with the increase in screen time. Student apathy results in lower class pace and in turn means fewer objectives. Fewer learning objectives are met, and as a result there is a general dumbing down of schooling. Many students also suffer from grade anxiety, seeing grades as punitive. One of the reasons many students see grades as punitive is because many teachers are actually reporting that student apathy is generally controlled, or in some ways students react to grades if nothing else. So they've lost their motivation, their intrinsic motivation for learning, but can be stimulated to perform if they have grades as a form of negative stimuli. That same student apathy means that they lack the intrinsic motivation to ask for explanation on how to improve after the students get a negative grade, and the associated grades with failure and negativity. Another pressing challenge facing education at the moment is assessment in the era of AI, which in truth, even before the arrival of AI, was causing problems. There was often a mismatch between learning content and the associated assessment. Multiple choice questions and essay writing remains the primary form of assessment in many institutions, partially due, as we said before, to the overcrowded classes. Correcting 30-odd multiple choice questions is much easier than facilitating 5 to 6 projects, including managing the inevitable conflicts and tensions which are likely to arise in K-12 project work. These forms of evaluation give rise to cheating, the reason that students cheat, of course, being linked to grade anxiety, which can take many forms, from students passing sets of answers to using the services of essay mills. Assessment has always been at the heart of education, serving both as a measure of learning and as a driver for teaching strategies. Yet the advent of generative AI has turned traditional approaches to assessment on their head. With AI tools now capable of producing polished essays and solving complex problems, educators have spent the last 2 years asking, how do we assess student work in the age of Gen AI? We have no choice but to admit that we cannot rely on standardized testing, which of course may not be a bad. The challenges which society faces are of course a consequence of the overcrowded, underfunded and outdated education system, with rates of functional illiteracy in Europe anywhere between 20 and 25%. This means that 20 to 25% of the people do not have the reading and writing skills that they need to function successfully in modern society. The widespread use of standardized testing, on the other hand, results in a significant skills gap because the tests only evaluate student ability to memorize facts. Some theories indeed suggest that this arises from a time in which memory meant survival, a skill which is becoming increasingly obsolete in our technology-driven world. Standardized testing rewards convergent thinking, which, combined with great anxiety, means student energy is focused on doing things exactly as they perceive the exam board wants them to do, thus stifling innovation and creativity. Students fear taking risks because they fear making mistakes which will impact their grades, so they don't learn how to take the initiative, which of course leads to a lack of leadership skills. While the students in schools do not like taking the initiative, universities and corporations need people who can innovate and take risks. But school systems which reward convergent thinking are just not preparing future leaders. They are preparing followers, and we can see in things like the World Economic Forum Jobs Report and the Skills Gap Report, which predates generative AI. The predicted skills that were most sought after from 2016 onwards were creativity and problem solving and analytical thinking, things that are just not developed as a result of multiple choice and standardized testing. All of this has a significant economic impact. Economic success relies on innovation and divergent thinking, and school systems which do not encourage creativity and innovation will see economic stagnation in society. A prime example is Italy, where I teach. In recognition of the increasing skills gap and the negative impact that it was having on economy, the Italian government introduced the PCTO, a form of work experience to be done during high school. Despite being introduced close to 10 years ago, along with streamlining civic education and including an ever more prevalent aspect of digital learning to the objectives of the civic education courses, these changes have seen minimal impact. So the government has recently introduced the Orientamento course, which is yet another attempt to reduce the skills gap by increasing those soft skills training in Italian schools. So why are these challenges prevailing? Well, in part because the system continues to have the same problems of overcrowding, the same reliance on rote learning and standardized testing. So how can AI be implemented to solve some of these challenges? Well, AI can play a transformative role in AI education, including positively impacting student motivation and self-efficacy, and can help us to rethink and redesign learning experiences to focus on developing 21st century skills so sorely lacking in the current educational systems. Nowadays, when we say AI, we usually refer to or think of generative AI, but AI is of course much more than that. In fact, if we apply AI-powered data analysis to learning, AI can be a catalyst for change in how we conceive of learning, not just because students are writing their essays with ChatGPT. Applying AI-powered learning analytics to a learning management system, for example, as I am doing with the product development of IL, combined with a small language model-powered teacher assistant bot trained on educational content and context, will allow us to create a genuinely personalized learning pathway for each student. This will not only allow students to develop and delve deeper into those areas where they excel, but most importantly, helps us to identify the weaknesses and create an adaptive learning pathway to ensure that students do not continue to move through the education system with a skills or knowledge gap, as currently often happens. This approach can also help prepare students for a genuinely flipped classroom where the lower order thinking and learning is done at home, and the active learning and the higher order learning is done in school as part of a new approach to developing 21st century skills through collaborative learning activities. Here you can see an example of VEA, the Virtual Educational Assistant bot, which has been trained on the IGCSE course, the content material and the exam structure, which help my students to prepare for their exams, and I often give them opportunities to use this in the classroom, and it helps to reduce the grade anxiety because they can really understand what it is that the longer essay style questions are asking them to do, and then when they do in turn do the essays in class, they tend to do better. So generative AI is not only a source of innovation and creativity, but can also be used to help with those standardized testing and reduce that grade anxiety. Specifically trained small language models, such as the VEA that I showed you before, can be used to make generative AI-powered teaching assistant bot, which can continue the individual support in the classroom. If each student has access to real-time in-class support, students with specific learning needs or shy students who don't want to ask questions during learning activities can get the feedback that they need and continue with their learning while the teacher monitors the class. The same bot can be used to help students overcome creative paralysis, encouraging independence in learning and fostering an increased motivation and sense of efficacy. Many school systems stream students according to level or learning or performance levels, reducing the diversity in the classroom and creating a learning reality which does not reflect the reality which the students will face on graduation. Using a Gen AI-powered bot as a learning support can reduce the number of streamed classrooms and broaden student horizons, helping them to develop their social and emotional skills during collaborative and class activities, which provide opportunities for peer learning across levels of performance. Generative AI is often positioned as the great threat to language acquisition and developing communication skills. However, generative AI bots can also be used to help develop these skills. As anyone who uses generative AI regularly knows, prompt engineering is essential to the successful deployment of generative AI, and the output varies greatly according to your prompting skills. Prompt engineering, however, is nothing more than good communication and making requests situated within clear contextual background. Using generative AI-powered learning assistants can help students not only develop these skills, but also develop computational and analytical thinking, all of which are important and which the younger generations seem to be losing, partially due to too much screen time. Last year, I used generative AI as part of my preparation for Cambridge English exams with both high school and middle school students for the first certificate and PET writing paper part 2, writing the story. Many of my students say that they struggle with coming up with the story even in their own language, so doing it in the second language is even more difficult. They complain that writing a story is very tough. I created a school AI space and students co-created with the AI, using it to overcome the creative paralysis and develop their story, starting with defining the genre, character and setting and getting real-time feedback and iterating accordingly. This approach, which we hope will see a correlation with improvement in performance, is grounded in an emergent educational theory, Murray-Pratchett's generativism, along with social constructivist and connectivist approaches for collaborative learning and using digital tools to mediate learning. When teaching through project-based learning, generativism learning becomes a process of generating new knowledge during which students think and learn collaboratively with AI actors. For example, the collaborator AI, the analytical AI, and the facilitator AI, in order to develop skills which will serve them long after next week's test or their report card. Drawing on some of the teaching and assessment techniques often used in second language learning as a tool for both learning and assessment, I developed the student author voice rubric. Rather than using punitive AI detectors to catch AI use, the SAV rubric assumes that student AI co-authorship and evaluates the balance between the AI assistance and the authenticity of the student's voice, much like teachers of a second language evaluate their learners' ability to personalize example texts while their language is developing. This approach ensures that students learn to co-create with AI without losing their own agency and creativity. The SAV doesn't just solve the challenges proposed by generative AI, but transforms them into opportunities for deeper and more meaningful learning. Generative AI can also be used in co-creative partner cross-disciplinary project-based learning projects, in which learning objectives are met without relying on rote teaching and standardized testing, by embedding the learning objectives into activities which adolescent students can get motivated by. I use the Educational Digital Gradual Immersion model, or the EDGIM, a phrased framework by Jorge Sanabria, which integrates AI into education for the development of my projects and project frameworks. In the EDGIM framework, learning is a process of gradual exploration where students deepen their engagement through structured stages. These stages, familiarization, co-creation, and exhibition, are designed to scaffold the student learning while fostering independence and creativity. Developing a project from start to finish also requires many of the skill sets indicated as in demand by the World Economic Forum's jobs report, so project-based learning can facilitate the development of 21st century skills and as well as meeting learning objectives in multiple subjects. So, emerging technologies like generative AI bots are project-specific teacher twins which can act as a study partner and help with the brainstorming and problem-solving activities. The availability of the bot to answer any questions that students working in groups may have allows the teachers to circulate more freely, while the bot supports the students during the creative activities. Teachers can facilitate and observe students more closely, changing the focus of evaluation to the development of competencies like critical thinking rather than information recall, thus promoting a culture of co-creation and shared knowledge to make learning more effective and engaging. Developing a project from start to finish also requires many of the skill sets indicated as in demand by the World Economic Forum's job report, so project-based learning can facilitate the development of 21st century skills in our students, as well as meeting learning objectives of multiple school subjects. The students who used AI felt that it helped them come up with ideas and made the learning activities more enjoyable, and reported feeling more confident in their abilities to think creatively and to write a better story when they use the AI tools. One student put it, "AI could help me with the questions I'm not sure about, and I don't need to ask the teacher as much. I can go on doing my classwork even if I'm not sure what the answer is, because the AI can help me with that." So now that we've explored the reason why and why we need to have a more creative and innovative focused approach to learning, and the impact that using generative AI tools in co-authoring has on students, I'd like to take some time to explore the Crea Tech and Rev frameworks which I developed for implementing generative AI into learning. Crea Tech, applied in mainstream primary and secondary education, is a foundational framework to introduce students to the phases of EDGIM and aspects of design thinking, preparing for them for life after high school graduation and for the advanced interdisciplinary demands of Rev at the university level. And the two frameworks represent the overall of the educational system needs if we want to prepare our students for the demands of the AI-infused 21st century. Crea Tech instills confidence and technical fluency needed to engage with AI and collaborative frameworks, while Rev amplifies these capabilities by situating learning within larger societal contexts. In Crea Tech, during the first phase, familiarization, students are introduced to the domain information and concepts that they'll need for their projects. At this point, it isn't about the technology, it's about seeing the bigger picture, understanding the problem, and cultivating a new mindset. The second phase, co-creation, is where the magic happens. Here, the students dive into their projects using a range of digital tools, including generative AI, as both creative partner and a source of iterative feedback. This phase is deeply collaborative, not just between students, but also between students and the technology. Students are not just consuming information, they are using information to apply it, question it, and process it. And in this, they are co-creating new knowledge. The third phase, exhibition, gives the students the opportunity to present their projects, receive feedback, and reflect on their learning journey. This phase is critical because it fosters a sense of accomplishment, which, as we have seen, increases motivation while reinforcing the iterative nature of creativity and learning. In the final phase, students compile reflective learning journals in which they document their projects while assessing their old work and the contributions of their team. It is an important phase of metacognition and helps students to identify their strengths, their weaknesses, and future learning opportunities. During Crea Tech projects, teachers use the SAV the SAV rubric to evaluate the written work within the Crea Tech projects, as well as observing the students' process. So the grading is more about the how rather than the what behind. So we're not focusing on the final product as much as the students' ability to collaborate and negotiate their way through the different phases of the project within their team. In terms of the SAV, we're focusing on the criterion. Number one, the balance of AI assistance and student voice. This criterion ensures that generative AI serves as a tool to enhance and not replace the students' writing in their learning journal. For example, students are encouraged to use the AI to refine their ideas, to generate drafts, but they must critically engage with the outputs so that they can make the work their own. Criterion number two is the integration of domain knowledge. Students are assessed on how effectively they incorporate subject-specific knowledge into their Gen AI-assisted outputs. For example, information which they used from their selected resources or topics that we have covered in class, which of course the Gen AI tool does not have access to. And the third criterion is critical thinking and editing. Perhaps the most transformative aspect, this criterion evaluates a student's ability to critique and improve the generated context. This process builds essential language and editing skills, such as identifying errors, refining tone, and ensuring coherence in argumentation. Rev projects tend to require a little bit more independence from the students and again have a phased approach to their learning. In the ideation phase, students collaborate with their educators, professionals, and community members in co-creation sessions. These could be ideation workshops, encouraging brainstorming and innovative solutions to real-world urban problems. The outputs are going to align with sustainability and smart city development goals. So they're going to be projects that they are applying directly and implementing directly within their communities. Prototypes are developed through rapid testing and iterative refinement based on user feedback. Pilot programs validate solutions in real-world urban contexts, ensuring adaptability and effectiveness, with the emphasis on integrating technological and ecological sustainability. But the most interesting part of the REV framework is the aspect of circular learning. The circular learning integrates theory with practice, creating a continuous loop of education in real-world application, as student projects are implemented in the urban settings, and these are projects that they run from start to finish. So, unlike traditional work experience or internships, which typically last just a few months, in REV projects, students work on a project that contributes to urban development, such as green infrastructure, and they develop job-ready skills while collaborating with educators, professionals, and communities on start-to-finish projects. So they are involved from the beginning to the end of the project. These projects tend to span the entire duration of maybe their primary degree or a master's. Solutions will evolve through feedback, fostering lifelong learning and innovation. So the Crea Tech framework, unlike REV, which is still in its very much theoretical phase, has actually been implemented. I had started implementing it into my school at the beginning of this school year. The Future of Innovations is a junior high Crea Tech project using design thinking challenges, like AI-assisted brainstorming, using the ideate kit to create products or solve problems related to the UNESCO SDGs. The course really focuses on using the EDGIM to guide the students through the design thinking process, and we are several weeks into a course which has seen everything from prototyping modern and digital solutions for well-being to interactive volunteering paid-forward systems. These experiences will not only enhance learning outcomes, but also have the potential to transform students' perceptions of their own abilities. As they use the AI to move through the different stages of Bloom's taxonomy, from knowledge acquisition to creation, the students can experience learning as an iterative and creative process, generating that much needed intrinsic motivation once they start seeing their successes. Their final submission includes a learning journal and their choice of presentation, some of which you can see here on screen. In these projects, the students have used AI tools for brainstorming, moving through the design thinking phases. They have learned to become independent learners by searching, guiding, and being guided. Now, some of them are even using CodePen.io to learn how to make a website for their product, Connected Voices, while others are using Dolly to help generate logo ideas or developing their prototypes on Canva. It is one of the most enjoyable classes of my week, and there is such a buzz of activity as the students will often have started working on their projects before I even get into the room. The success of this project underscores its potential as a scalable framework for AI integration and education. It's not just about using AI to make learning more efficient. It's about making it more meaningful to prepare students for a future where AI is not just a tool, but a partner in their professional and personal growth. Evaluation is ongoing. The teachers are assessing the process, so I assess the process on a continuous basis every single week. The way in which the project has been developed, the collaboration between the students, from the brainstorming process to the allocation of roles within the team, who does what, how they do it. We're grading the generative AI chats as well, and I'll be focusing on peer and self-assessment so that the students have those metacognitive moments. Then, finally, I will use the SAV to evaluate the student writing and learning in their learning journals. So what does this all mean for the future of education? Well, my 3 cents are, first of all, AI at its best is a catalyst for innovation. It does not replace teachers. It does not diminish the student's role in learning. Instead, it creates a partnership which allows teachers and students to explore new possibilities in learning, and it's clear that artificial intelligence is reshaping education in profound and multifaceted ways. The second main thing, transformation is not just about introducing new tools or technologies. It's about reimagining what education can be to ensure that we are preparing students for an AI-driven future and helping them to develop the skills that they will genuinely need to shape their future responsibly and inclusively. To do this, student evaluation needs to align with those skills. As educators, AI developers, and policymakers, we have a shared responsibility. We need to take the opportunity to break free from the limitations of traditional education by implementing small but tangible changes in our teaching. So, for all you teachers out there, choose one topic, one section of the course, one lesson, and experiment. The moment is not just about adapting to change, it's about shaping it.